one of those who relies on visuals for talking that Eros has been blacked out. Its albedo is only slightly brighter than a black hole. You won't see it. Thanks, said the captain. It was nearly a month into the voyage before he managed to speak civilly to Colonel Graham. The shipboard computer had a limited library. It was geared primarily to entertainment rather than education, so during the voyage, after breakfast and morning exercises, Ender and Graf would usually talk about command school, about Earth, about astronomy and physics, and whatever Ender wanted to know. And above all, he wanted to know about the buggers. We don't know much, said Graf. We've never had a live one in custody. Even when we caught one unarmed and alive, he died the moment it became obvious he was captured. Even the he is uncertain. The most likely thing, in fact, is that most bugger soldiers are females with atrophied or vestigial sexual organs. We can't tell. It's their psychology that would be most useful to you. And we haven't exactly had a chance to interview them. Tell me what you know, and maybe I'll learn something that I need. So Graf told him. The buggers were organisms that could have conceivably have evolved on Earth if things had gone a different way a billion years ago. At the molecular level, there were no surprises. Even the genetic material was the same. It was no accident that they looked insect-like to human beings. Though their internal organs were now much more complex and specialized than any insects, and they had evolved an internal skeleton and shed most of the exoskeleton, their physical structure still echoed their ancestors, who could have easily have been very much like Earth's ants. But don't be fooled by that, said Graf. It's just as meaningful to say that our ancestors could easily have been very much like squirrels. If that's all we have to go on, that's something, said Ender. Squirrels never built starships, said Graf. There are usually a few changes on the way, from gathering nuts and seeds to harvesting asteroids and putting permanent research stations on the moons of Saturn. The buggers could probably see about the same spectrum of light as human beings, and there was artificial lightning in their ships and ground installations. However, their antennae seemed almost vestigial. There was no evidence from their bodies that smelling, tasting, or hearing were particularly important to them. Of course, we can't be sure, but we can't see any way that they could have used sound for communication. The oddest thing of all was that they also didn't have any communication devices on their ships. No radios, nothing that could transmit or receive any kind of signal. They communicate ship to ship. I've seen the videos. They talk to each other. True. But body to body, mind to mind. It's the most important thing we learned from them. Their communication, however they do it, is instantaneous. Light speed is no barrier. When Mazer Rackham defeated their invasion fleet, they all closed up shop at once. There was no time for a signal. Everything just stopped. Ender remembered the videos of uninjured buggers lying dead at their posts. We knew then that it was possible to communicate faster than light. That was 70 years ago, and once we knew what could be done, we did it. Not me, mind you. I wasn't born then. How is it possible? I can't explain Philtiotic physics to you. Half of it nobody understands anyway. What matters is that we built the Ansible. The official name is Philtiotic Parallax Instantaneous Communicator, but somebody dredged the name Ansible out of an old book somewhere, and it caught on. Not that most people even know the machine exists. That means that ships could talk to each other even if they're across the solar system, said Ender. It means, said Graf, that ships could talk to each other even when they're across the galaxy, and the buggers can do it without machines. So they knew what People under 25 are assumed to be a security risk. It's very unjust to a good many responsible children, but it helps narrow the number of people who might let something slip. What's all the secrecy for anyway? Because we've taken some terrible risks, Ender, and we don't want to have every net on Earth second-guessing those decisions. You see, as soon as we had a working Ansible, we ducked it into our best starships and launched them to attack the bugger's home system. Do we know where they are? Yes. So, we're not waiting for the third invasion. We are the third invasion. We're attacking them. Nobody says that. Everybody thinks we have a huge fleet of warships waiting in the comet shield. Not one. We're quite defenseless here. What if they've sent a fleet to attack us? Then we're dead. But our ships haven't seen such a fleet, not a sign of one. Maybe they gave up and they're planning to leave us alone. Maybe. You've seen the videos. Would you bet the human race on the chance of them giving up and leaving us alone? Ender tried to grasp the amounts of time that had gone by, and the ships have been traveling for 70 years. Some of them for 30 years, and some for 20. We make better ships now, but we're learning how to play with space a little better. But every starship that is not still under construction is on its way to a bugger world or outpost. Every starship with cruisers and fighters tucked into his belly is out there approaching the buggers, de-accelerating, because they're almost there. The first ships were sent to the most distant objectives, the more recent ships to the closer ones. Our timing was pretty good. They'll all be arriving in combat range within a few months of each other. Unfortunately, our most primitive, outdated equipment will be attacking their home world. Still, they're armed well enough. We have some weapons the buggers never saw before. When will they arrive? Within the next 5 years, Ender. Everything is ready at eye of command. The Master Ansible is there, in contact with all of our invasion fleet. The ships are all working, ready to fight. All we lack, Ender, is the battle commander. Someone who knows what the hell to do with those ships when they get there. And what if no one knows what to do with them? We'll just do our best with the best commander we can get. Me, thought Ender. They want me to be ready in 5 years. Colonel Crab, there isn't a chance I'll be ready to command a fleet in time. Crab shrugged. So, do your best. If you aren't ready, we'll make do with what we've got. That eased Ender's mind, but only for a moment. Of course, Ender, what we've got right now is nobody. Ender knew that this was another of Crab's games. Make me believe that it all depends on me, so I can't slack off, so I push myself as hard as possible. Game or not, though, it might also be true. And so he could work as hard as possible. It was what Val had wanted of him. 5 years. Only 5 years until the fleet arrives, and I don't know anything yet. I'll only be 15 in 5 years, said Ender. Going on 16, said Crab. It all depends on what you know. Colonel Crab, he said, I just want to go back and swim in the lake. After we win the war, said Crab, or lose it. We'll have a few decades before they get back here to finish us off. The house will be there, and I promise you can swim to your heart's content. But I'll still be too young for security clearance. We'll keep you under armed guard at all times. The military knows how to handle these things. They both laughed, and Ender had to remind himself that Crab was only acting like a friend, that everything he did was a lie or a cheat calculated to turn Ender into an efficient fighting machine. I'll become exactly the tool you want me to be, said Ender silently, but at least I won't be fooled into it. I'll do it because I chose to, not because you tricked me into it. reached arrows before they could see it. The captain showed them the visual scan, then superimposed the heat scan on the same screen. They were practically on top of it, only 4,000 kilometers out, but arrows only 24 kilometers long was invisible if it didn't shine with reflected sunlight. The captain docked the ship on one of the 3 landing platforms that circled Arrows. It could not land directly because Arrows had enhanced gravity, and the tug, designed for towing cargoes, could never escape the gravity well. He bade them an irritable goodbye, but Enter and Grav remained cheerful. The captain was bitter at having to leave his tow. Enter and Grav felt like prisoners finally paroled from jail. When they boarded the shuttle that would take them to the surface of Arrows, they repeated perverse misquotations of lines from the videos that the captain had endlessly watched and laughed like a madman. The captain grew surly and withdrew by pretending to go to sleep. Then, almost as an afterthought, Enter asked Grav one last question. Why are we fighting the buggers? I've heard all kinds of reasons, said Grav. Because they have an over-crowded system, and they've got to colonize. Because they can't stand the thought of other intelligent life in the universe. Because they don't think we are intelligent life. Because they have some weird religion. Because they watched our old video broadcast and decided we were hopelessly violent. All kinds of reasons. What do you believe? It doesn't matter what I believe. I want to know anyway. They must talk to each other directly, Enter, mind to mind. What one thinks, the other can also think. What one remembers, another can also remember. Why would they ever develop language? Why would they ever learn to read and write? How would they know what reading and writing were if they saw them, or signals, or numbers, or anything that we use to communicate? This isn't just a matter of translating from one language to another. They don't have a language at all. We used every means we could think of to communicate with them, but they don't even have the machinery to know we're signaling. And maybe they've been trying to think to us, and they can't understand why we don't respond.